Hello and welcome to the Crystal Palace podcast. I'm Alfonso Greenbrook, and today, Pod 23, I'll be looking over the departure of Alan Pardew and the arrival of new manager Sam Allardyce. I'll also be reading the official statements from the club, as well as discussing what I think about these changes and what this will mean for Palace this season. As well as this, I'm also going to be showing you Sam Allardyce's first interview as Palace manager, so let's begin. So before going to talk about what I think about Pardew and Allardyce, I'm just going to give you the official statements that the club issued following the last few days' events. And obviously I am going to start with the statement confirming that Pardew was asked to step down by the board. Crystal Palace FC have today asked Alan Pardew to step down as manager of the club. Club chairman Steve Parish said, "I would like to put on record our sincere gratitude for the tremendous work Alan has given us, both in his time here as a manager and previously as a player. Following a fantastic second half to the 2014-15 season, the 15-16 season culminated in only narrowly missing out on winning the FA Cup final, as well as securing our Premier League place for a record-breaking fourth time. During his tenure, Alan's hard work and dedication here was without question. He has improved so many areas of the club, and we wish him the very best in the future. With games now coming thick and fast over the holiday period, the club are hoping to put someone in place as quick as possible, but have nothing to say about their replacement at this time." The club statement was closely followed up by a statement from the sacked manager Alan Pardew. "I would just like to take the opportunity to thank everyone at Crystal Palace for their fantastic support. In particular, a big thanks to the players who gave me absolutely everything, and Steve Parish and his board. Personally, I have a lot of good feelings for the football club, and I am sad that my time here has ended. I feel that I have a special bond with the club, and I hope that it hasn't been affected. I wish everyone associated with the club the best of luck in the future, including of course the fans who have been magnificent. There will be no further comment at the present time." After many hours of speculation about the new manager, Crystal Palace announced that Sam Allardyce was their new manager and released this statement. "Crystal Palace Football Club are pleased to announce Sam Allardyce as their new first-team manager on a 2.5-year contract. Chairman Steve Parish said, 'We are delighted to be able to make an appointment so quickly, and fortunate that someone of Sam's calibre and experience was available. Allardyce will take charge of the team with immediate effect in time for the Boxing Day match against Watford.'" So now I'm going to give you my thoughts on both Pardew and our new manager Sam Allardyce, but obviously I'm going to start with the recently departed Alan Pardew. Now, to be honest, there's quite a lot of debate about this, but I personally think it's pretty hard to pinpoint exactly what went wrong with Pardew. That's because we had many good times under him, so we went on many unbeaten runs, but then we also had many bad times under him, obviously, especially in 12 months, but when we went on winless runs, especially last season, where we went without a win for almost half the year. And obviously, we have had good and bad times, under him. When he first came in, we had very good times. The last sort of 6 months, a year, let's say, it's been pretty bad. But actually, this season especially, yes, we haven't won that many games. We've actually played pretty well under him. And the only reason he got the sack, and the only reason we haven't got results, is for the fact that our defence has let him down. And it's let him down, it's let us, the fans, down, it's let the club down. Because, we found ourselves in a relegation battle. And that was the problem. The attack was fine. He addressed that. That was the problem last season. He came in, he addressed that in the transfer window. But the defence was the problem, leaking in goals. And obviously, I talk about the attack being good and, scoring goals, which is what he done. £30 million, Alan Pardew spent on Christian Benteke. You would expect, you spent this money, you would expect the board to, let him stay in the job, not sack him, because they want him to work, because he's obviously got a plan bringing in a player of Christian's, capabilities. Obviously it didn't quite work out for him. But in saying that, although Alan Pardew's got the sack, we can say that his signing is actually proving his worth, because, Benteke has impressed us with 8 goals and 1 assist this season. And to be honest, the same can go for Zaha. Yes, Alan Pardew didn't sort of bring Zaha to the club, but he's improved him drastically. And that's one of the things that I personally will give Alan Pardew credit for, other than sort of the fact that getting us to the cup final for the first time, or getting our club to a cup final for the first time in quite a long time. I'll give him credit for that. But the one thing really that I've really seen about him, which is what I would like to thank Pardew for, is actually the fact that Wilfried Zaha, he's improved him, made him into a better player. And, you know, under Pardew, he started the season really well. You know, he's got 6 assists for the season and 3 goals, which is the most he's ever got of the last 3 seasons combined. And, you know, it's just fantastic. And actually, talking about assists, he's one of the highest in the league. So just showing that actually last season, he was quite mediocre, let's say, at assisting and scoring goals. This season, he's sort of in the upper echelons now of assists in the league, because now he's improved drastically and he's adding that sort of end product to his game. And I personally think the reason Zaha's improved so much is because of Alan Pardew. The fact that the players formed quite a good bond, and that's something that Pardew is known for, you know, having good man management. So if there's a problem, or rather than talking to the team as a whole, he'll pinpoint the players and talk to the players, you know, individually about their problems and how they can improve. And that's why I personally think that Zaha's improved so much. The fact that Pardew's obviously sat down with Zaha and gone, okay, you need to get more crosses in, make sure they're quality, you're not talking about quantity, and also, you know, you've got to try and get your shots on target, and that's what he's done to this game, or that's what he's added to Zaha's game, and ultimately improved him into a better player. And I dare I say it, a few weeks ago I did say he was world class, because in some games this season he has actually been, you know, world class. But, you know, obviously despite this, players being good and our attack being good, you know, Pardew neglected the defence. So last season the defence was very good and we couldn't score goals, and that was our problem. This season is the complete reversal. The fact that he's sorted the problem scoring goals, but that's meant that now he's not concentrating on defence that was so good, and that's what's led us down the table. The fact that we were conceding so many goals but scoring goals as well, that's what led us down to the bottom of the table. You know, if for him to succeed, which we all wanted him to succeed, to be honest, if you ask any Palace fan, they would have liked it to work for him, because he's an English manager in the English league, you know, an ex-Palace legend, let's say, for scoring that important goal. So you could say we all wanted it to work for him, but obviously it didn't. I think if he had got the balance right between attack and defence, we wouldn't be in this situation, and he would be in the job, you know, he wouldn't be sacked. But to be honest, people say that we sacked him too early or we sacked him too late. We should have sacked him a few weeks ago, especially after the Swansea game. Some people may say we should have given him, you know, up until the next Swansea game, after the Arsenal game, to see whether he could get a result against Watford, against Swansea. But, you know, he didn't get given that time. And I'm sort of in the middle of this. I personally think it was the right time that he got sacked, because, you know, it stopped Pardew. I know it sounds horrible, but possibly wrecking our next few fixtures and leaving us in an even worse state. So at the moment we're just hovering above the relegation zone, and to be honest, my personal thought is, even if, say, someone like Sunderland draw a game, it's our goal difference, and that's the one thing that Pardew's done. He's got the attack right, which is the goal difference, but we can't rely on goal difference to keep us up. And to be honest, the next few games, I'll just run through them: Watford, like I said, Swansea, West Ham, Everton, Bournemouth and Sunderland. So these are the games, crucial games, that you've got teams around you that you've got to try and win or draw to get results. And I think that the board especially, and quite a lot of fans, didn't really want to see Pardew risk us losing these fixtures, which could leave us in it even more less. And I've said this already, you know, when you've got teams around you and it's so tight, the league as it is this year, you need to get these crucial wins, and that's, you know, what we have to do. You know, we don't want to be in a worse situation, so we want to try and get out of it, and that's why we brought in the new manager. We want to try and sort of fix the defence up whilst having a good attack, and hopefully, you know, climb back up the table. And that's the thing, beating teams around us is crucial and pivotal to our season. If we can get that right, then we'd be fine. But that's what we've got to do now. The next sort of 5-6 games, and excluding the Arsenal game, because that's going to be pretty hard on New Year's Day, I think it is, we just need to make sure that, you know, we beat these teams around us. And also, I think that the timing of this just before the transfer window is perfect for Sam Allardyce, because it gives him sort of a week and a half to sort of look at the team he's got, look at the squad he's got. Obviously, because he's got the Watford and Arsenal game to look at, and then that means he can see what he needs to add in January, and then obviously can add them. And to be honest, for me personally, I think we need a defender or two. You know, we may, because Papa Suarez long-term injury, we need another left back. We might need another centre back as well, because Tompkins is getting injured. Delaney, you know, he's getting on a bit, so he may need to be dropped every so often for fitness. So we need to bring in a defender, maybe in midfield as well. You know, we need a little bit more cover in defensive areas, and we need someone attacking. So if we can get someone, sort of a centre mid, who can be very good offensively and defensively, that's what Allardyce needs to look to get in. And obviously a striker as well. So obviously Connor Wickham's got the really bad knee injuries, out for the rest of the season. We've got Benteke on good form, and Campbell, who sometimes makes impact off the bench, but that's not enough. You know, we've got Remy as well, he keeps getting injured, so we need to bring in a striker, and hopefully Allardyce can do that. And that's the thing about Pardew sacking. Yes, we knew that when it was such an odd time that he got sacked, we knew that Parish and the board had something planned, and obviously there you have it, Allardyce came in, and hopefully this will, you know, this sort of timing of it will allow him to assess the side and see what we have to bring in January. But apparently, you know, when he was unemployed, obviously the last few months he's been unemployed, he actually sent like a massive package, let's say, to the American owners, just explaining everything about the squad and his analysis of the squad and what he thinks we need to improve. And that's probably why he got the job so quickly, because, you know, he went for the interview, but because he provided all of this sort of statistics and stuff and things that he thinks Palace need to improve, the fact that he got that portfolio of what he thinks he can do with the club and what he needs to improve, I think that's what, you know, we want him for the club. And that's the thing that I like about his appointment. Yes, he's a proven manager in the Premier League, hasn't been relegated, he's very good at shoring up the defence, but the fact that he's already planned before he even got employed what he was going to do with the side just shows that he's here to make an impact, and that's something that Pardew didn't do. It sometimes felt that with Pardew he never had a plan B, and, you know, things didn't work out for him. And that's one thing about him, whether it be the board or himself, you know, that's the reason why we're in this situation, because some of our key players are getting injured and we haven't got you know, sufficient backup. But obviously there are there is a really good summary that I found on the internet on ESPN's website, just sort of giving 5 reasons why Alan Pardew's reign at Crystal Palace didn't quite work. And actually, Robert Sutherland, if you do want to go and check him out on the ESPN website, then please do, because they're pretty good. He writes pretty good articles on there about Palace, and this is the one I found, you know, 5 reasons, just summing up sort of in a summary about Alan Pardew's reign and where it went wrong. And obviously, if you do want to go on the website, then do of course go onto it, because it gives you can read the full article, because I'm only going to give you the bullet point titles. But if you just want to read into it in a more detail, then of course go onto the website, you know, support Robert's article on there. But certainly I think this was a pretty good summary, and I think this is what everyone else, you know, thought about the game. So number 1, an inability to find a formula that works. So just talking about changing the formation, changing the style of play, and it not quite working. A transfer policy that lacked a plan. So talking about the fact that we didn't have enough players in the squad, the fact that we didn't have sufficient backup, things like that. Obviously, big characters weren't cherished, so the fact that Miliednak got sold, the fact that Delaney lost the captaincy, you know, this sort of characters at the club, the leaders at the club, you know, Pardew didn't take advantage of them. A gung-ho approach when stability was needed, so the fact that we went out all out attacking games when actually we should just shore up the defence and stay strong rather than sort of going for results all the time. And obviously, really, a memorable FA Cup final defeat, but it was undermined by the dancing. So the fact that we almost won the FA Cup and we lost it was undermined by the fact that we saw his dancing. So that video, that Vine, is trending all on Twitter at the minute. But you know, it doesn't. It takes a sort of shell off what was actually a pretty decent performance in the FA Cup. But certainly, like I said at the beginning, if you do want to read up on these sort of 5 bullet points, which I personally think fantastic, you know, they really sum up why Alan Pardew's reign went wrong. The fact that he didn't have a plan, the fact there was no plan B, there was no formula, there was no stability. All of these things, you know, I think really sum up why it went wrong for Alan Pardew. But certainly head over to the website if you do want to, you know, read the article. But the final thing really before going to talk about Sam Allardyce is I would like to thank Pardew for what he's done for the club. You know, the fact that he got us to an FA Cup final for the first time in many years. The fact that the first season he came in, he got us to a 10th place to finish, the highest we've ever finished in the Premier League, not the First Division. And also the fact that, you know, the stuff that he's done to the club, the fact that he's changed the training ground, he's changed the academy, all of these things he's done for the club for the better. But obviously it didn't quite work out for him, and I do wish him the best of luck in the future, and I can see him getting into management with another team quite soon. But obviously do comment below with what you think about Pardew, whether you agree with the 5 things I've said, whether you know, anything else you think about why his sort of his managerial time at Palace did fail. And obviously do comment below as well whether you think it was the right time. But you know, I'm going to move on now. That's enough of Alan Pardew. I wish him the best in the future, but it's now to move on to the new chapter in the history of Crystal Palace, and I am going to talk about the new manager, Big Sam Allardyce. So first of all, I'd just like to welcome Big Sam, or Sam Allardyce, whatever you fans want to call him, to Palace, and I do wish him the best of luck with the challenges which lie ahead of him for the rest of the season. Now obviously, he's not quite a fan's favourite, because quite a lot of people don't like his boring style of play, but I actually, and I'll go on to talk about why I like it, but personally I think he's what Palace needed, a change. We needed to change something at the club, and obviously the manager is what the board decided to change. And obviously, before people go on to talk about they don't like him because of his style of play, he's a proven Premier League manager with experience and who's never been relegated. and the fact that he done that with Sunderland last year is a brilliant example of that. And also his organisation defensively, the fact that he can organise the defence, which is what Palace needed in a minute, and that's what Palace have lacked under Alan Pardew. The fact that they've lacked the organisation defensively, you know, that's what we need. That's what we needed, and obviously Sam Allardyce is the guy to come in and do that. And obviously, I know quite a lot of people are not a fan because he plays boring football, long balls up to the striker. But actually, if you look at what he done at Sunderland, and you look at or hear what, you know, Sunderland fans had to say, he actually is not as bad as people say. And the fact that he's never been relegated just gives us an omen of his experience and what he can do, and what he can do obviously to help us. But obviously, like I've said already, just to touch on sort of a few bullet points I've put together about Allardyce. You know, if you look at what he done at Sunderland, he tightened them up. So as soon as he came in there, they started getting results, starting with draws and then building up offensively to get wins. And that's what we needed. He tightened the defence up so Sunderland stopped conceding goals, and then obviously that made them defensively stronger. And also, like I said, because they got the defence stronger, they could concentrate on the attack, and they started scoring goals, which also was a problem for Sunderland. And although it isn't a problem for Palace, as the defence is, but if you can use the attack we've got at the minute combined with a new sort of organised defence, I'm sure it'll work. And that's the thing. Palace, the problem with Palace is we need to get the balance right, and hopefully, having seen what he's done at Sunderland, Sam Allardyce can do that. And obviously, Crystal Palace, it's, you know, our history, you know, we call ourselves a yo-yo club, the Palace roller coaster, and it certainly is. Now, obviously, last season under Alan Pardew didn't quite work. And last season we were very strong defensively, so we weren't shipping loads of goals, we weren't conceding lots of goals, but we struggled to score goals. And you know, that was the problem last season. That's why we kept losing games. The fact that when we went 1-0 down, we couldn't match the other team and score. Whereas this season, Alan Pardew, I'll give him credit for it. He's got together a good group of players. He's brought in new strikers, and actually this season we've been scoring very freely. And outside of the top 4 teams in the league, we're the highest scoring team. So it just shows that that's not our problem. But obviously, this season is the complete reversal of last season. In comparison, we were defensively strong last season. This season we were defensively weak. So it just shows how it can change, and that's the thing with Alan Pardew. That's why he got sacked, because yes, he identified one problem, but it led to another one. Now, if you do look at the Swansea game, that just is a clear example of what I'm talking about. This season especially, we obviously scored 4 goals, which shows how good we were at, from an offensive thing, and we still lost the game. So it just shows how, once again, our defensive lack of organisation defensively, how it cost us in these games. And obviously look at the whole game as well. Obviously we scored 3 goals, so that's good. Once again, showing our attacking threat. But then it showed we only drew the game. So it's just showing that actually our attacking threat is no use if you can't be defensive good as well. And obviously, just on Allardyce, he's been to teams before, Sunderland especially last season, they were conceding lots of goals. He came in there, he made them defensively stronger, you know, still made them score goals and made them sort of be free scoring. So hopefully he comes to Palace, and although we haven't got the problem of not scoring goals, hopefully he can keep the attack we've got, which is quite potent, let's say, this season, and obviously shore up the defence and make it stronger. And hopefully we can keep being free scoring, and maybe, you know, get into the top 4 teams in the league for scoring goals. But certainly, that's what we're thinking. And the second or the third bullet point I've got here really is, you know, at the bottom of the league, it's quite tight at the minute. There's only 1 or 2 points in it, and obviously Palace hovering above the relegation zone. You know, Sam Allardyce said this, and it's sort of a quote, let's say, I've just reworded it from one of his interviews. You know, he says, at the bottom of the table, it's all about keeping the ball out of your own net. So obviously, it's alright scoring goals at the bottom of the league, which is what we've done, but you need to keep them out of your net. You need to try and win games, and that's what, you know, we weren't doing. That's what Sunderland are not doing. And obviously Sam Allardyce came to Sunderland, he shored them up and made them not concede goals. And, you know, if you look at the teams that go down, so look at Newcastle, look at Norwich, all of these teams, there's no doubt about it, they were shipping in loads of goals and weren't scoring enough. And that's what Sam Allardyce needs to do to Palace. Obviously, I've said this already and I can't really highlight it enough. You know, we're scoring plenty of goals, we just need to score. We just need to be defensively organised, sorry. So that's the thing really. The best team, or the team that does stay up, so Sunderland last season, the only reason they stayed up, and the fact that Newcastle and Norwich went down and Aston Villa, is the fact that Sunderland were more defensively organised. And hopefully Allardyce can, you know, bring that to us. Now obviously people talk about his boring style, and this is the 4th bullet point really. You know, they talk about, oh, he puts long balls to the striker. if you look what he done at Sunderland, actually he played a different style under them, similar to what he done during his most successful spell at Bolton. And obviously, if he does go back or revert back to his old way with his old style, you know, long balls works fine for us, because you've got the likes of Zaha and Townsend on the wing who can get crosses in, and you've got a big man, the striker up front, Benteke, who's got brilliant headering ability. So that would work so well. That style would suit us very well. And if Sam Allardyce implements that to Palace, because that's his sort of known style, it would actually be, you know, it would work to our advantage, because Alan Pardew, he's not really known for sort of playing that style, long ball football. So if you've got someone who's known for it, renowned for it, then obviously that will have a much better impact, because obviously Sam Allardyce will implement that style of long balls to the striker from the wingers. He will implement it better than Alan Pardew did. And obviously, I've talked about already, Sunderland fans, they actually quite liked Allardyce, and that's because, yes, he kept them up, but because he got them playing quite a nice sort of, quite attractive style of football. And that's what people say, you know, they say Allardyce, he only plays long balls. But if you look at what he done, you know, at Sunderland, at his latter years at West Ham United, it was actually a pretty nice sort of attractive style of football. And obviously Sunderland fans, you know, you've seen this with interviews, Palace fans interviewing them about the appointment of Allardyce. They said, actually, you're probably going to get a quite a nice attractive style of football. And obviously we've seen that with England. When Sam Allardyce played or managed that one game for England, he actually set them up to be pretty good defensively and offensively. So he's just showing in the England job, as well as what he done at Sunderland, what he can do. And to be honest, here's sort of attractive style of play. Having seen replays of, you know, his time at Sunderland, I think the likes of MacArthur and actually Cabaye, who like to get involved in and around the box, will actually, that sort of style will actually suit them. And obviously that would try, Sam Allardyce, much like what Alan Pardew did, will try to get these two involved, MacArthur and Cabaye, as well as getting Zaha punching and obviously Townsend on the wings involved as well. And obviously the final thing really to talk about, you know, his record speaks for himself. You know, he's proven it time and time again. He's been in the Premier League for 14 years. And he's never been relegated, and that just shows his experience. The fact that he's been in the top division for most of his career, managerial career, and he's managed to do what he was there to do. You know, he does what he says on the tin. He goes out there to keep teams up, and obviously that's his main target, and he does that very well. And obviously, a clear example of that recent history, he kept Sunderland up in the past, he's kept Bolton up and got them to Europa League, I think it was. West Ham, he's kept them up, he got them promoted. So just showing once again his record is actually fantastic. And to be honest, just to sort of summarise really them few bullet points I've given you, you know, people may not like his style, and to be honest I can understand why, because people want to see sort of attractive football. They don't want to primarily see long balls up to the striker. But I actually think eventually he'd be quite a hit with Palace fans, and I know already, having seen his interview, that quite a lot of fans like him, because unlike Alan Pardew, he's very sort of open in his interviews, he's very honest, and he actually says what the problems are. You know, Alan Pardew, quite a lot of the time, he made excuses and tried to get away from the questions or the problems at Palace. Whereas you'll see in a minute when I give you the interview with Sam Allardyce, he came out and said, yes, the attack's fantastic, but the defence is a problem, and I'm going to address that. So hopefully, you know, the Palace fans will sort of grow on him and like him, even though his style may not be attractive. And actually, that hopefully, when we get more results on the board and he organises the team better, we'll go on to like him, and hopefully he can take the team forward. You know, people may say that because it's only a 2.5-year contract, and because he's going to get a massive payoff if he gets us, you know, saves us from relegation. You know, you may think it's only short term, but I actually think if we give him the money, we give him the chances, you know, I think personally he can take the team forward to the next level. And having seen what he done with Bolton, getting them into whether it's Europa or Champions League, you know, he got them up to the upper echelons of the league. So hopefully, if we give him the time, the money, hopefully he can do that. But obviously, like what I say with Pardew, do comment below with your opinions on the appointment of Sam Allardyce, whether you think he'd be a hit with Palace, whether you think he'd do well, or whether you think his style may bore us to death. But hopefully, you know, for this half of the season, hopefully Allardyce can start picking up points for us, you know, organise our defence better, and obviously still keep that attacking threat we've got. But certainly, I've talked about it already, we need to get players in, and also do comment below with what players you think he should bring in January. You know, Sam Allardyce, he only brought in a few players at Sunderland, but they were players who were crucial to keeping him up last season. They were very good finds from the scouts and himself. So hopefully Sam Allardyce can do the same at Palace and actually bring in some stars which can help us to propel ourselves. But do comment below with what you think he should bring in January. But obviously now you've heard what I had to say, and my opinion on both Allardyce and Pardew. I'm now going to give you Sam Allardyce's first interview as the Palace boss.
Sam, welcome to Crystal Palace Football Club, back managing in the Premier League. How excited are you?
Well, the best league in the world. I think anybody's doubts that today when you see the following across the world and the quality of the Premier League. I think that as difficult as it is, as pressurised as it is, it's where I've been comfortable for many years now, and obviously you generally get a new job on the fact there's a few difficulties at the club. I have to sort those difficulties out, hopefully, with my experience, and try and get a few more results on the board, particularly over Christmas and New Year, to make everybody feel a little more comfortable.
Now, you've played and managed against the club many times in the past. What are your thoughts on Palace as a club?
Well, recently it's been very impressive the way it's grown. In fact, they've held the Premier League status over a number of years now, and the fact that the fans and the stadium, when you're there, is always a very, very good atmosphere and a very passionate one. So I hope we can bring some joy, particularly over Christmas and New Year, but over the long term between now and the end of the season, of course. The club itself seems to be very ambitious. Certainly the chairman and the owners seem to be taking the club forward in the right direction. I like the look of the squad, and that's probably the reason that I'm here, because I feel that, you know, the club could go forward from here, and hopefully I can help it go forward, and it seems to be very ambitious.
Our attacking players have been fairly good this season. Are you looking forward to working with players like Wilfried Zaha and Christian Benteke? I am, yes, definitely. But I've also got a very important job about stopping the goals going in the other end first. To be perfectly honest with you, you know, and I think that attacking players when you're in possession are fantastic, because this season the strengthening that area by the club and by Alan has brought a lot of flair to the team, and I think that's brought quite a few more goals than perhaps we're looking like scoring last season. But the other side of it is when we're not in possession, we've just got to stop conceding goals and make sure that those goals we score win us games now. And it sounds simple, it's not that easy, but that's what we've got to try and turn around. And looking at just a little bit further ahead into January, we've got the transfer window coming up. Have you already got targets in mind?
Well, I sit down with the recruitment and the chairman, and really you've got to look at the availability today, and January is a very difficult window. Also, we've got to try and make sure we protect the players we've got, and the rumours that may float around that people might be interested in our players is also of great concern when you're a manager, because that can be very disruptive, and can put a player off his game, particularly in the position we're in. We don't want any of that. We're certainly trying to recruit and make the squad a little bit bigger, with a little bit more strength and depth would obviously be a key area for me, but I think the players are here are good enough. But also, if we can add to that, let's try and do it.
And finally, just what do you hope to achieve this season?
Well, I don't like to put too much of a tag on the fact that what we would try and achieve. I think, and first and foremost, is just to say, let's stop losing. You know, let's start getting a result, and if that grows the confidence and results and draws turn into wins, then, you know, we can turn it around and perhaps go on a little run of undefeated games rather than winning the odd one and then losing again. And I think that's the object here, to try and find a basis of consistency that brings us some results, starting with Watford, hopefully.
Yeah, thanks for taking the time to talk to us, Sam, and have a good Christmas.
Pleasure, thank you very much.
So there you have it. Now you've heard what Sam Allardyce had to say after the recent changes at the club. This concludes this week's podcast. But make sure to come back next week for my post-match review of the game against Watford, which will be Sam Allardyce's first game in charge. So thanks for listening, and remember to up the Palace.